What's up guys, it's MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be talking about the 270-day legendary login reward, Visix the Unbowed. So let's take a look at this Dark Elf legendary defense-based champion who has an A1 that hits 2 times, has a 100% chance to decrease the turn meter on each hit by 10%, and on top of that she also fills her turn meter based on the amount that she decreased from the enemy that it hit. Moving on to the A2, attacks all enemies, has a 75 up to 100% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, places a shield buff on this champion equivalent to 20% of Visix max HP. This is another skill that starts at a 4-turn cooldown and goes down to a 3-turn cooldown. Moving on to our A3, we have places a provoke debuff on the target, not dealing any damage to them, but placing a ally protection debuff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. This is also a 3-turn cooldown, up from a 4-turn cooldown if you do not book this champion. As far as an aura, we have another defense to faction crypts by 37%. So now the first thing I saw, and based on what the login reward said, it said it was a turn meter nightmare or something like that. We were just on the screen. I looked at this and I said 10% up to 20% total with each hit. It is a lot. It's not that much turn meter, but it can definitely help, especially in a counter attack environment. So this is a decent skill, definitely. As far as the A2 goes, decreased speed, we saw this with the last champion spotlight that I did with the first epic login reward, that was Tanix Hate Flower, and decreased speed is good. However, I don't think there's a lot here as far as just a decreased speed debuff. There is this interesting shield debuff that is placed on 2 turns, so there's quite a few interactions that I thought of right away. And as far as the A3 goes, any champion that provides an ally protection on a 3-turn cooldown or a 4-turn cooldown can definitely have some potential in clan boss, but we will get back to the clan boss a little bit later on in the video. Let's take a look at how I geared this champion really quickly, going over the total stats. We have 33,000 health, 4,500 defense, 207 speed, 100% crit rate, 237 crit damage, and I did not go with accuracy. I did find that this champion doesn't do insane damage, but it definitely does enough damage to kind of raise an eyebrow, saying there might be something here. I did determine that the single target provoke was nothing special, the decreased speed was nothing special, so even using this in dungeon progression, I highly recommend going the damage route and looking for that utility of the AoE damage on top of that ally protection. So looking at our base stat, the one thing that should be jumping out to you right now is this 1,476 base defense. That is a lot of defense and it scales extremely well. As you can see, I'm only using a defense ring, defense banner, and defense chest piece. I'm using crit damage gloves here. And I have her defense all the way at 4,585. So that's a ton of defense by not stacking defense at all. If you wanted to use defense boots with speed on it, defense gloves, we're looking at a serious amount of defense on this champion and provide tons of utility, especially for early to mid game players. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take her into a dungeon run, see what she can do. So let's get right into that. Since I did give Visix a decent amount of speed, she is going to go in the wrong order here, so let's put that defense down and weaken on everybody. Let's burn her A1 on this random target here. Now I didn't show you the masters, but I am using War Master, so I'm not using Helm Smashers, so the damage isn't going to be insane on this, but it's definitely enough to say she can definitely provide some type of wave clear, especially being a defense-based champion. So now let's hit him with that A2. I don't believe there's any special animation, but let's just take a look anyways. So it's pretty much just the same as Coronar if you're familiar with him. So right there, we didn't do a ton. We're not going to be one-shotting waves by any means. And one thing to notice with any defense-based champion, this decreased defense buff is a killer, especially for high base defense, and it can definitely be a problem. So definitely keep that in mind when bringing her in. Pairing her with someone who provides a block debuff is going to be very strong, giving her a decent amount of resistance so she never gets that buff, because her damage is going to be heavily affected by any decreased defense debuff placed on her from any enemy champion. As we can see here, she is doing a decent bit of damage. She's not doing anything crazy, but still, it's definitely on par with, I would say, an average legendary champion as far as wave clear goes. The fact that she's defense based and not attack based does increase her value a bit because it adds a lot of survivability to this champion. Dragon probably isn't the best place to spotlight her, because as we're going to see here, ally protection in the dragon isn't ideal for this huge deep breath. It's going to do a ton of damage to the champion, and if you don't reduce that purple bar that you're supposed to, it's more likely than not that she is going to die from having that ally protection up during that round. However, she is doing fine at the moment, and I'm pretty sure she's going to do a substantial amount of total damage in this run just based on her kit. Alright, so going over this recap, we have Norog doing 200,000. I don't think he's geared. Whirlum at 500, Visix the Unbowed at 1.2 million, Venus at 1.7 being that poisoner, defense down and weaken, and Lightsworn at 200,000, so she can definitely do damage. Like I said before, I did kind of build her for clan boss just to give you guys an idea, because I thought of something really cool while I was going over her skills before, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So while I was slightly disappointed with Tanic's Hate Flower and her kit, I think Visix the Unbowed does show a decent amount of potential, especially for the clan boss. And it's pretty much going to come down to, if you don't book this champion, you can definitely build her with a 4:3 ratio for the clan boss, and she has some very interesting interactions. So if you use her A2 and A3 in the stun round in a 4:3 rotation, she can be an ideal stun soaker without needing any type of block debuff champion. So what she's going to do, and if you don't know this already, I know I've talked about it in other videos, the slam from the clan boss is based on your champion's maxed HP. So the amount of defense you have is very crucial, and shield buffs on the champion are huge for this. So the fact that Visix has a ton of base defense is going to be gigantic for a lot of players looking for that stun soaker and making sure it always lands on Visix. So what I mean by synergy is we have this ally protection that's going to put a buff on every champion but Visix that's going to guide the threat to this champion, assuming all other conditions for guiding threat are met. And we also have this A2, so if you're at a 4:3 ratio, you're going to want to plan it so both of Visix turns do happen before the stun. So what's going to happen is she's going to do this AoE attack just before the stun round, and she's going to get a 20% shield. So what you can do here, and I did not take the mastery for this, but you can take rejuvenation, giving her that little bit more of a shield, and you can be surprised at the small difference a little bump to a shield can make when trying to survive that extra round. Because if a champion dies to the stun, that gives you at least 2 more rounds of survivability, assuming that the champion that provides the shield and is soaking the stun isn't supplying that attack down, or isn't supplying some type of counterattack or another really beneficial ability to make sure your clan boss team survives for those 2 AoEs. So I did give her a pretty generic mastery tree, but hopefully you understand my point here, where the first turn in the stun round she would use her A2, on the second turn she would use this ally protection, which would also carry over into the first AoE, giving a champion like Valkyrie, Martyr, any kind of counterattack champion, even for a speed team, you would be giving your speed team 1 additional round, having that ally protection on the first AoE only. So that was the first thought there. Another thing is, a champion who just provides buffs and is just a stun soaker isn't that ideal. However, since she does hit decently hard and she does have a double hit A1, this does slightly increase her value in the clan boss as far as how much damage she's actually going to do for you. The last place I did want to talk about Visix the Unbowed is in Arena. Now she's probably not going to be a Gold 4 progression champion as far as Arena goes. However, if you are earlier into the game and you're looking for a champion to really help smooth things over, even on defense, she can definitely be a help to you since you can stack high defense, HP. It is only a single target provoke, so that's not going to do much. I don't recommend stacking accuracy still if you want to use her in Arena, but she will do a ton of damage for you if you have a defense up champion. But she has very good synergy with a counterattack champion in the arena, whether it's Valkyrie, Skull Crusher, Martyr. She will work well with these champions because she reduces the turn meter and she gives turn meter to herself. As mentioned before, you will want a block debuff as if you're facing a Torment, because that defense down is going to really play a big factor in how much damage this champion can do. So let's take a look at this battle. We have Duchess, we have Valkyrie, and we have Venus along with Visix here. So let's see what happens exactly. We're going to start off with this counterattack buff here. And we are hoping that... Alright, now let's defense down and weaken everybody. The debuff from Lissandra was transferred. So now we're going to see the first counterattack from Visix here. Not a ton of damage, but still enough to reduce that turn meter. Granted, she does have War Master, so you probably would not be using War Master if you had this champion in the arena. However, it's definitely still a viable option. Now let's use this A2 ability, see what we can get out. The only real champion this can affect right now is Sile, since everyone else has Unkillable and Cassandra did not have defense down and weaken. So pretty much the point here is just to show you that she's decreasing the turn meter on all the counter attacks. This actually isn't as ideal since we do have these unkillable debuffs on the champion. So you really don't want that staying on the champion, and the fact that Visix reducing the turn meter isn't really doing much, because Skull Crown can definitely be a problem. However, this team is so tanky that there's really not a lot to worry about. So now let's do that HP burn. We have another counter attack coming up from Visix. There is still that unkillable buff, so it's not going to do much, like I said before. And basically, we're just going to do a cleanup right here. She's going to die anyway, so we'll hit the Lissandra. And this is a fact where you may need accuracy just for that decreased turn meter, but it really depends on how you want her. If you simply want to use her as a damage dealing champion, you can absolutely do that. If you want her to decrease the turn meter, you're going to need accuracy. Now you're going to have to decide if you want to stack accuracy on the champions. If you want to use her as strictly a damage dealer, I'd probably run something like Helm Smasher and not run accuracy. If you want to use her turn meter manipulation to her advantage, you're going to need an accuracy banner at least. Probably looking at 200 to 210 accuracy, which is definitely going to make her damage output struggle a little bit, but she's definitely a good support champion with a counterattack, even without a counterattack champion. Now let's take a look at this champion in the final arena battle for this showcase here, just to see what she can really do with this counterattack. So we have Arbiter that's going to boost the turn meter here. Let's get that Valk shield going on. Now this is perfect, so they get a chance to go, and we're going to see what happens with this counterattack debuff. Unfortunately, there are no AoE champions on their team, so we may not be able to see a lot of benefit with Visix here. So there's going to be one counterattack there, which is good, decreasing that turn meter, which is perfect, which is also increasing hers. Unfortunately, there was a stun on Venus, which is obviously suboptimal. So what we're going to do now is we are going to taunt, let's say, Rhodos here. We have the taunt, we have the ally protection going on here, so that's good. We have some more survivability for this team. Let's slowly start dealing damage to Rhodos to Lost Groom here, because he is obviously going to be the only problem on this team. And this is what I was talking about with her defense before. She definitely has a ton of defense, so it's going to be very hard, unless they have ignored defense, to do significant damage to this champion. So now let's debuff everybody here. Venus actually just killed Rhodos, which is awesome to see. Now we're going to use the A2 from Visix to try to clean up the rest of these guys here. And yes, that worked out perfectly there. So as we can see, another champion from a login reward who isn't necessarily endgame by any means. However, she can definitely add value to a lot of mid-game teams. Probably someone who I think they did decent with this. If you're at 270 days played in this game, Visix will probably help you out, especially if you're not spending any money. Another legendary, especially Void, no weak affinity. She's going to be dealing that damage in your dungeons. Obviously, she's going to help you out in faction wars. She has this arena potential that you can build around. Since she has such high base defense, you can just build her with crit rate and you're going to do fine in that. The key point I was talking about with Clan Boss, I think this is going to do well for a ton of players who are struggling in Clan Boss, trying to get to Nightmare, even Ultra Nightmare, giving you someone who can consistently soak that stun and not really have to worry about any other cooldowns here, especially if you don't want to book her. That 4-to-3 ratio is going to work out perfectly for you. This is kind of a low investment, high return champion in my opinion, so this is definitely better than the first. I'm looking forward to doing the next login reward champion, which is Grush. So give me your overall feedback on this legendary champion. Now, I think this is probably one of the overall weaker champions as far as her use, because you do have to consider endgame when considering any champion, and legendary voids are supposed to be the strongest champions in the game. Just because of how difficult it is to get this champion, I think she is a weaker one, but she is free from the login rewards, so I was not expecting some S tier champion that everyone's going to get that would definitely ruin the balance of the entire game. So this is a champion that I feel like is a worthy login reward champion. Maybe they shouldn't have made this void, because I think that her kit should be a little bit better. If they gave her an AoE provoke, I think that would be much more beneficial in making people stack accuracy, give them a reason to stack accuracy, because the decreased defense and the turn meter reduction just isn't enough, in my opinion, to warrant stacking accuracy on this champion. Alright guys, as always, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like this content, don't forget to subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss my next video, and I will see you all in the next upload.